Growing up in Userepta, Holy Week included the bread and butter worship services, Palm Sunday, Good Friday, and Easter Sunday. As a kid, I was particularly thrilled by the lavishness of having pancake breakfast at church on Easter. I assumed that we in Userepta had Holy Week pretty much nailed down. In grad school and seminary, my mind was blown by being introduced to the Triduum. 2 more chances to worship during Holy Week sandwiched around Good Friday. Who knew? Maundy Thursday marks the bittersweet intimacy of Jesus gathering with his disciples before his betrayal. Jesus models what it means to love by washing their feet before sharing with them the Last Supper. Maundy Thursday concludes with the worship space being stripped of all ornamentation in preparation for Good Friday. The Easter Vigil service on Holy Saturday is a movement from darkness to light, from death to life. The Easter Vigil begins late on Saturday evening by lighting the Paschal candle from a bonfire and carrying it into a worship space still dark and bare from Good Friday. Then, as a community, we begin to retell the stories of God's people. The creation, Noah and the flood, the faithfulness and the folly of the patriarchs and matriarchs, the exodus from Egypt through the sea, Daniel's fiery furnace, Ezekiel's valley of dry bones, and more. These stories remind us of how God has always been present and active with a beloved creation. God has always shown a path to new beginnings and new life out of seemingly hopeless endings and death. Could there be a pattern developing here? And next in the Easter Vigil service comes what I call the big reveal. The congregation gathers at the baptismal font and is reminded that this is more than ordinary water. It is storied water. God's Spirit brooded over the water at creation. Through the waters of flood, God delivered Noah and his family. Through the sea, God led the people Israel from slavery into freedom. At the river Jordan, Jesus was baptized by John. And at the font, we hear these words of St. Paul. Do you not know that all of us who have been baptized into Christ Jesus were baptized into his death? Therefore, we have been buried with him by baptism into death, so that just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, so we too might walk in newness of life. With the marking of Maundy Thursday and the Easter Vigil over the years, I eventually figured out that Holy Week is like an extended play, a drama. The worship space is the set of Jerusalem. We are all actors returning throughout the week to take our part in various acts of the play. It is a story of something that happened to Jesus 2,000 years ago, yes. Thanks be to God, for only Jesus the Christ could be the protagonist of this drama. But, through baptism, we experience that it is our story too. Having been reunited of this mystery around the font, yet more news comes. The first reports of resurrection. The whole cosmos has been renewed. Through vulnerable, suffering love comes new life. We have been grafted through Christ into the life of the triune God. This is the fulfillment of Jesus' prayer. As you, Father, are in me and I am in you, may they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. During Holy Week 2020, the opportunities to gather in person for the drama have been curtailed. Fortunately, our worship communities are still able to offer various online and virtual means for us to take part. I commend you to mark as much of Holy Week as possible. And unlike some years when we in our business with school and work and our many activities can distance ourselves from the suffering and pain, which is an inextricable part both of life and of Holy Week, this year there can be no denial. The whole world is united in vulnerability. The common suffering can be the catalyst for even greater compassion, particularly if we're renewed once again by the end of the drama. An empty tomb. Resurrection. God's resounding yes to Jesus' way of vulnerable suffering love. Suffering and death and COVID-19 may torment us, but they do not have the last say. During Holy Week 2020, we once more become actors in the divine drama. Through the storied waters of baptism, we are incorporated into the mystery of Christ's death and resurrection. May you have a blessed Holy Week.